Hello. Um, so for those of you that don't know, my name's Sam. I have been really terrible about posting any type of an update video, so this is actually only my second. I am going into month number 3 on testosterone. I've had 11 shots so far. Tomorrow will be number 12. Not too many changes, I guess. I do have like this really crappy little dirt stash coming in, so I'm really excited about that. I have a lot of little blonde ones coming in around here too, so that's really cool. I know probably one of the top points that trans guys look forward to when they start transitioning is like, when am I going to start growing facial hair? And it's an extremely, I'm learning, long process, but I mean, I'm at least starting to see something, so that's really awesome. Not like a whole lot else, I guess. After my first month, my sex drive went through the roof. It was like really fine for the first month, and then it was almost like literally like shot number 5, and I was like through the roof. And so that's been kind of wild, and it hasn't really settled down. And my appetite also has significantly increased. I mean, I ate like almost an entire large pizza to myself the other day, so and it hits you like in a very weird way. Like, I'm not used to just the appetite change in general, but it's like you go from being fine all day, and then, or like for a few hours at least, and then suddenly like you're like, oh, okay, like I think I'm getting hungry, and then 10 minutes after that point you feel like you're gonna die of starvation if you don't eat like a giant sandwich right then and there. So it's been like kind of hard to manage, especially being at work. I mean, I'm making this video on my break at work today. I have like an hour to kill after already killing an hour and a half. But I'm at work for like 6 hours at a time, and then I'll have like a couple hour break, and then it's another like 4, 5, 6 hours after that. So I mean, I'm at work the whole time getting just starving, and thank God I work in a restaurant. I'm like sneaking food all the time. Because it like takes over everything that you're thinking about. Like, all you can think about is, I need to eat right now. So that's been kind of wild. I got some little blonde hairs coming in around places too, so that's been kind of cool. My leg hair has started getting darker, and more concentrated, I guess. Like, it's not as patchy as it was, and like thin. So that's cool. Actually, when I wear like shorts and stuff, I'm actually like, oh cool, like I have noticeable leg hair now instead of just these tiny little shits that were there. Pardon my language for anybody who is potentially watching this under the age of 18. I swear a lot, and I apologize. I will flag this as not safe for work or something after I post it. I think, what else? I haven't had my first month checkup yet. I was supposed to, and they actually screwed up, and when they told me when my appointment was going to be, they actually never put me down for that appointment. So it was like a week before, and I was looking on the website for all my health things, and it tells you when, like, what upcoming appointments you have and stuff like that. And I didn't have anything, so I called them. They were like, well, we don't actually have you down, but we can get you in. The soonest they could get me in at the time was when was it? It was like the beginning of June. It was originally supposed to be like May 14th or something, because I started in April. So, and that one got screwed up, and the next one they could get me in was the beginning of June. So I was like, okay. And then the way it worked out with work and everything, I couldn't make that appointment. So a couple weeks before that, I had to have them reschedule again. And then the quickest one they could get me in after that point was July 10th, which is obviously coming up now. So I will try to be better about making update videos, and I will make one after that, because I have a lot of questions for that appointment. As far as like every 3 or 4 months you have to get certain labs done, checking your T levels and stuff like that. And I'm quite positive they're probably not going to up my dosage at all until after I've had those tests done. But the insurance that I have, as pro-LGBT as they claim to be, they don't actually cover anything that's considered gender dysphoria. So my hormones are not covered, my doctor's appointments for anything related to my hormones are not covered, and none of the labs are covered. So it's already turning out to be very, very expensive, and for a little server like myself, it's not totally feasible. So I am trying to work on figuring that out. There's another clinic in Cleveland, because I'm in the Ohio area, that does financing, I found out. I have another trans friend who's in the same general area as me, and he said that he goes there, and depending on your income, which again, being a server, my claimed income is not very high, making $4 an hour. So I can qualify for financing, which the bracket that I would be in can cover up to like 75% of like general healthcare costs and stuff like that, and like my insurance, my hormones and the labs and stuff. So after my next doctor's appointment, I'm going to talk to them about it, see what they say, and then probably end up going that route and then get those done, and any hormone related things that I need to get done, I can hopefully just go through that, and stay on the insurance that I have for like, everything else that is actually covered. Because literally, like my mom's a nurse, and she was reading the names of all the labs that I have to get done. And she was actually kind of pissed off because she said, like, they were all in these like weird acronyms that I didn't understand. And she's like, well, this one, if you just walked in and you said that you got lightheaded one day, they would cover entirely for free. But because it's considered gender dysphoria, it's, $200 or something like that instead. So it's like, she's mad. My mom's very mad in my defense, which is awesome in a way. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get that figured out, and I'll update you guys on that, because especially if I have any followers that are in the same area as me and come up with the same dilemma, hopefully this will help you guys figure that kind of stuff out. See what else is there. My dad knows now, so that's kind of bittersweet. I was hesitant to tell my dad. My mom is this adorable little British woman, and stuff like this, I guess, or like gay things are not as taboo in England as they are over here. It's just not as big of a deal. It's more just like not talked about as much. I mean, now it's 2017, so it is more talked about, but it's just never been as like super crazy frowned upon and wrong as it is in the US. So she didn't really have as big of a problem like when I was 14 and came out as a lesbian. My dad, on the other hand, back then didn't talk to me for like 2 months, and I was always like doing stuff with my dad and like, helping him work on the car and stay in the deck or work on the pool, something like that, mowing the lawn. Like, I was always like the kid that did all the yard work with my dad, and he's a musician. He taught me how to play guitar and drums and stuff, and so that was really, really hard for me. So I told my mom that I'm trans back in October. It was right before Halloween, and I only started coming out to people around the end of September. So I told her pretty early on, and I had told her that I wanted to wait to tell my dad until I was on hormones, realistically, because I didn't want him to kind of think like that it's a phase, or that I'm unsure, or like all the complications, or how difficult it's going to be, or how are you going to go about doing this, and how do you know it's the right thing for you, and any questions that you might have. I wanted to have that all ironed out, so that when I did tell him, if he did have these questions, I had answers. Kind of put his mind at ease a little bit, because I know it all stems from a place of him loving me. Like, my parents have always supported me and loved the crap out of me. So I know that any like concerns or worries that he would have, even if they might come off as like disapproving, that they come from a generally good place. But I just, I wanted to wait till I was ready, till I had my stuff kind of figured out, and then I ended up getting on hormones, and I started getting really worried about telling him, so I kept putting it off. Until a few weeks ago, maybe like 3 weeks ago, I think, we had a funeral in the family, and my parents were there. I haven't lived at home in a while, so I hadn't seen him, and he didn't know I was on hormones, and he hadn't seen or heard any changes or anything. So that was the first time I was seeing them in a few weeks, and my voice sounded a little hoarse. It probably sounded sick, and probably much like I do now. And this was probably about where it still is now. And I saw my dad, and I was just like, hey, and he hugged me. It was fine. He didn't say anything. And I remember there was one point where I was standing next to him and my mom. We were talking to my cousin, and I just felt my dad's gaze on me, and I was like, fuck. I knew right then and there that he was noticing something different about me, and I started getting really worried. So maybe a half hour later, my mom and I were talking, just the two of us, and I mentioned something about how I needed to tell Dad, and she was like, oh, Dad already knows. I was like, what do you mean Dad already knows? I had to sit down, and I was like, what do you mean Dad knows? I've been acting this entire time for the past hour, he doesn't know, and now you're telling me he does. And she said that it's bittersweet. She said, I couldn't handle that lie anymore. And I understand where my mom's coming from, because that's her life partner. My parents are very much still together. They're hopelessly in love, and I adore them. And I want the same thing for myself someday. I really, really look up to them and what they have. So I respect that, her, not wanting to keep that big of a secret from him. But at the same time, coming from being the person in that position, everyone always tells you, do it when you're ready. Don't out somebody that's not ready, and, communicate with them. Let them, ask where they're at, learn where they're at, so that who to talk to about it, who not to tell, how to refer to that person around certain other people, things like that, just to keep that person safe. And it can be a lot of stress on somebody to know that people around you know, and it wasn't your decision to tell them. But it is what it is, and I was actually, probably that week would have been the week that I told him. I went to Hobby Lobby and got a little pack of It's a Boy, baby shower announcement cards, and I was going to fill it out, for my dad, essentially, with my name and, the reason, come help celebrate Samuel, etc., etc., and then write an actual letter, essentially, with it, kind of answering any questions that he might have right at the gate, giving him kind of an opportunity to handle it on his own, instead of me coming and telling him in person and him not knowing how to react to me, and feeling very on the spot, because my dad also has ADD like I do. And if you are ever in a situation where, for those of you that don't have ADD or ADHD, if an ADHD or ADD person is in a situation where they feel very on the spot, or pressured, and they don't feel like they can react the way that they naturally want to react, it can be very, very stressful. And a lot of times they'll either react very, very negatively, or they just won't react at all, and they will shut down, and just it's awful, because you're in your head and you're like, I need to say something, and then you start psyching yourself out that you need to say something, and then you really can't say anything because you're thinking so hard about the fact that you need to come up with something to say. Much like when you're trying to fall asleep and you keep thinking about how badly you need to sleep, and it prevents you from sleeping, and then when you stop thinking about needing to sleep is when you actually fall asleep. It's kind of similar to that. And I didn't want to put him in that situation, so I was writing him a letter. I was going to write him a letter so that he could handle it on his own privately. If he had any questions and he didn't feel comfortable coming to me just yet, he could go to my mom. My mom and I have talked about it in gross detail, and she has done a lot of research on her own part about trans things. My mom used the word gender fluid in a sentence to me a few weeks ago. She's come so far, and she knows so much, and she's done it all, taking it upon herself to either watch movies or documentaries, look at things online, or just ask me. And that's really, really, really awesome. And so I know that, my dad obviously feels very comfortable with her, and if he did have any questions and he didn't feel comfortable coming to me, he could go to her, and she could always come to me as a middleman if she needed to, until he was ready to come to me. But it didn't work out that way. I'm just kind of going over that just in case anybody else needs ideas on how to come out to a family member that they might be unsure of how they'll react. That I did research myself, and the letter idea was one of my obviously one of my favorite routes to go as far as that, because I think it is nice to give the person a chance to handle it on their own before they come to you. And then they'll come to you when they're ready to talk about it. Because if you try to approach it when they're not ready, they can lash out at you, or they might say something out of ignorance, which is not their fault at all. And it could come off very offensive to you, very hurtful to you. And both of those things, all of that should be avoided, can be avoided. So she told me he knows, and I first was like, God damn it. And then I was like, all right, well, what did he say? And she was kind of vague, so I'm not really 100% sure where it's at, but basically she told me, she approached it by saying that she had been watching a lot of videos on trans things and gender fluid, agender, stuff like that. And my dad's response was, I'm not ready for that yet. And she said, okay. And that's pretty much all the information that she gave me. So I didn't really know if that meant that he knew about me, or if he just was like, that's way out of my league. I don't need to know that, so I don't want to know that. But we've talked since then. My mom and I, Father's Day was just last week or something, and I was supposed to come over after work, and I asked my mom, they ended up actually coming into my work so that I could hang out with them for a little bit. And I asked my mom, I was like, well, if you guys are coming in, I haven't seen you in a month, and I just want you to know that I have some scruff. And my voice has dropped, and she was like, okay. She's like, Dad knows. And I was like, okay, I'm just making sure that he 100% does officially know. And he does. And I've seen him, I've been at home a lot more lately, pretty much every day now, or every other day. And him and I have seen each other. He's as normal, loving father as he always has been. And we haven't really talked about it, but he hasn't said anything negative. He hasn't treated me any differently. He texts me and says, just thinking about you, sends me little heart emojis, and, tells me he loves me all the time. So, even if he's not necessarily ready to talk about it, he clearly, it clearly has not adjusted the way that he views me as his child yet, or if it will at all. It'll probably take a while before he can look at me and think that's my son. And I'm okay with that. I'm more than willing to be patient. I have my own things going on with my girlfriend, work. It's summer. I'm trying to spend a lot of my free time outdoors and, doing things with my friends, and plus, trying to be patient with my own transition and how slow that stuff happens. And so if he needs time, he has all the time in the world. So I'm not super worried about it. I feel very, very strongly that it'll work out just fine. And I know that I'm fortunate for that, because I know a lot of individuals in my position do not have that kind of support from their family. And it's my family, my friends, my coworkers, my girlfriend, her family. Everyone has been extremely supportive, extremely validating with me. And it's been really awesome for me. And it breaks my heart to know that other people don't have that, or don't have it yet. But I firmly believe that it'll continue to get better, and it'll be all right. Me and my dad will go back to being the pals that we always have been since I was a little kid. So I'm excited about that. But other than that, not a whole lot. I guess that was probably the biggest milestone so far, is my dad knowing. I'm getting a little thicker, which, if anyone's looked at any pictures of me on my on my main Tumblr, 'cause this is my transition blog, if you've ever seen any full body shots of me, I'm a skinny kid. I'm 107 pounds. I'm very, very small, and I haven't even weighed myself in over a month, so I don't know if I've actually put on any weight. But I noticeably, my face is kind of thinning a little bit around here, which is super cool. And my shoulder muscle, I'm starting to get some up here. And again, being so skinny, a lot of the fat redistribution, I think I'll probably see a lot sooner than, guys that are a little bit bigger than me. Just because I mean, I don't have much as it is, so when it moves, you see it. You know, when you start getting more fat up here, it shows immediately, because I'm used to it just being, you know, super small. And so I have like a little bit of muscle up here, and I've gone to the gym a few times, and that's obviously helped to see more changes. As far as my physique goes, my calves have gotten actually pretty better looking, I guess, thicker, and I'm really excited about that. I look like way better in pants than I ever have. Like trying to find skinny jeans that fit somebody this small, you just look like a stick. So it's been really cool to actually look like I fit my clothes. All my tables at work, a lot of my guests will refer to me as he now. So I'm generally passing, and I think that's really, really awesome. Because I've never really passed ever. So that's probably been like the coolest part, is that now I deal with at least 50 some strangers a night, and they're starting to gender me correctly just based on that little interaction that we have of me taking their drink orders and bringing them food. So that's been really, really cool, really validating. Other than that, I don't really have too much, I guess. If I think of anything else, I'll probably post it in a week or so with another little update maybe, but I'm definitely shooting to post another update after my doctor's appointment. Hopefully I'll have answers to some questions as far as the insurance stuff and the financing, the financial aid help and stuff like that. Also, I covered in my first video that I do subcutaneous injections. Most guys do intramuscular, but they're starting to kind of move people towards subcutaneous because it does produce as good of results without the damage to the scar tissue that intramuscular can cause. But I've been having some problems. I don't know if it's just because I do have such a low fat content that you're supposed to be able to inject essentially into / underneath the fat, and it sort of disperses into the fat and absorbs that way. But I have developed a little, almost like a cyst or like a bubble type thing of like, it feels like fluid. Like I've had cysts in my joints before, and it feels like a little gel bubble essentially, because it's hardened fluid. And that's kind of what it feels like on my the right side of my abdomen, and it won't go away. And the left side, I've started, when I inject, I massage for a while, like 15, 20 minutes of just laying down and massaging it, rubbing it out to smooth it out. And that's worked, and I don't have any bump or anything on the left side. There was one that almost seemed like it was developing, and I managed to rub it out. But on the right side, I've been massaging it daily for weeks, and it has not gone away. So I'm going to ask them about that and see if, there's something I'm doing wrong. And basically, my mom said, because I had her supervise, she's a nurse, I had her supervise one of my shots just to make sure I wasn't fucking it up. And she said, I don't want to downplay your efforts, but it's really hard to fuck up a subcutaneous injection. It's verbatim what my mother said to me. So I was confident that I was doing it right until that happened about a month or so ago. So I'm going to ask them about that and see what I'm doing wrong, and then hopefully I can give you guys an update on that, so that if any of you get on testosterone, they tell you to do subcutaneous injections, and this happens to you, you will know what to do, because I have scoured the internet and I cannot find anything, at least not with a solid answer as to why it's happening. There's been some theories that I've checked out, but nothing really like definitive, like this is what's happening, this is how to prevent it. So hopefully I'll have those answers for you guys. But I do have to go back to work, so long for now. I will hopefully post a video in a couple weeks for you guys.